Hello everyone! So today I'm bringing you a slightly unhinged video of my favorite custom content rose bushes. This is such a niche topic, but when I proposed it on Discord and no one was immediately like, don't do it, I took that as all the confirmation I needed that my fellow gardeners out there needed a guide as to where to get their rose bushes. So these are some of my favorites, and I figured I would show you on the lot that I'm currently building. This lot is absolutely extra when it comes to gardening, and this entire maze, this hedge maze, I lost in a crash. So I had to rebuild it, so I have a little space. So I figured, let's go ahead, let's explore some of the best roses that we have, because I went on a hunt, and I had Discord on a hunt for some of the best vining roses, and I only really found one that I liked. I think I only found two entirely. So there's definitely a lot of space, I think, in the market for some more roses. Now, these are actually roses, these kind of red and pink flowers down here. I don't use them very often, but I did use them in this build, so I just wanted to show you. And I actually have an entire rose promenade, which is really why I was searching for so many roses in the game. So you can see here I've used probably 5 or 6 different roses, and I am just going to go ahead and show you the best landscaping roses that we can find, as well as some of the best interior design roses. So as I said, these on the end over here, I don't use them a whole lot, but they're by Chrissy, and Chrissy6930. And they're really lovely. They're purely decorative, so you don't actually need to water them. However, I would encourage you, there is a mod that you can get where you don't have to water or do any kind of gardening, and that's really helpful if you use a lot of landscaping that kind of overlaps each other. Now these shake shafter, amazing. I love these. These are probably some of my favorite ones out of the entire neighborhood, or out of the entire collection. I've used them here, you can see on St. Catherine's Cathedral, and they come in some really lovely colors. Now this Forever Sim Fantasy one is also just, it's pretty great. I think the alpha roses could look better. Now I am primarily an alpha player, and so I would use these because from a distance they don't look quite as silly, but you can see that up close some of the textures just look a little bit rough. Now this is another one that I actually really love and I think works really well for both Max's Match and Alpha, and these are just a literal rose, but we've got some really great recolors. So whereas the original ones are kind of monochrome one tone, these have multiple tones to them, and so they look really lovely, and they just they blend in super well with the landscaping. I think they're absolutely a necessity if you use any kind of roses in your game. These are another favorite. The leaves are a lot darker, which actually feels a little bit realistic, but maybe they're slightly too dark. However, what's lovely about these by Nofrena, from Wood for Sims, is the fact that there are so many recolors and all of them just look beautiful. I think the textures are just alpha enough. Some of them, they look a little muddy from further away. You can see on this cottage here, they don't exactly have the best texture from far away. But what's particularly nice about these is the fact that you can kind of layer them with other non-flowering bushes to get that kind of layered multicolored leaf effect. So you have the darker ones on the bottom, because the leaves are very centralized to the bottom of this bush, which I find so useful. Now this is probably one of my least favorites of the bunch. This is also from Forever Sim Fantasy, and you can see that the textures are not the best. They do create some sense of variation, and so I will use them. You can see them actually up in the Rose Promenade a little farther back. They're in the center of the Rose Promenade, so they're not exactly the focus, but they're a little taller than the other ones that we'll find, and so because of that they add a little bit of extra height and variation, which I really like. You can see that we've used multiple levels of different types of roses. And I think that's actually important really when you're considering landscaping in general. This one over here I don't like because it really has this like mud on the bottom, like the dirt, and that's not very useful to me. So the big rose bush, now the textures could be better. That's kind of like, I think roses are really hard because to get a good rose, like the textures are going to be pretty high poly. But this one is really good from like far away landscaping when you don't want it to be the center of the focus. So in this greenhouse right here, I've kind of placed them to the back of this statue. They look pretty good from this distance and further away, but that's because you have something really high textured in front of it, and that is more Annie, that is more of the focus. Now these are the crown jewel of the landscaping roses. Do they look more like petunias? Yes, they look like petunias, but they are so versatile and so useful and so lush and voluptuous. And that was really what I was going for when it comes to custom content roses. Now, they have like several different heights and several different sizes, which is really nice when you're using the vining plants over stuff. And so I thought this looked really, really good with this trellis. And so also another tip for vining stuff, this is actually in like wall decor so that you can make it shiftable. However, I actually have like an all things shiftable mod, which I will also link and recommend because I just discovered it. And that kind of lets you change the height of things. And that is actually a really nice tool to use in landscaping that might not be obvious or apparent, because you can change the height of bushes and roses and flowers and stuff towards the back, but also like to raise it higher, but you can also do it towards the front to make things lower. So that is something I would really, really encourage. And I actually decided to kind of, while I was filming this, fill out this space here a little bit more, because this is what I originally wanted. I originally didn't just want ivy in this giant trellis, but I wanted climbing roses. And so there are also some recolors of those roses as well that you should definitely get. So moving on to the interior roses. This is from the venerable Cashcraft. Now we actually have several roses that are from Cashcraft that are absolutely stunning. I use this so often. It's so small, it's so demure, so it just fits in, but it also adds a really lovely pop of color that just brightens up an entire room. And I also wanted to include, this is actually converted from the Sims 3 store by Varenka. It's just one of those standard like single rose in a vase. The texture is not particularly high poly, it could be better, but it's kind of a staple, you know? This is another Cashcraft one, and I use this so much. Really, all of the Cashcraft roses I use in all of my nicer builds. They've got some really, really beautiful recolors, and so you actually have nice color options. And you've definitely seen these in my builds if you watch my Sims 2 videos. Now this one, oh, stunning, absolutely stunning. The textures could be better, but like they're just alpha enough, but also simple enough that they work really well with a lot of like complex interior landscapes. So they don't really draw your eye away from anything. They kind of blend in and are just really nice. This is probably one of the first Cashcraft roses that I downloaded, and I used it in so many of my builds because I'm obsessed with it. It's got really lovely recolors. Honestly, I want more. Someone make more recolors of this because it is stunning. And you can see that some of the color options don't exactly look great in high contrast lighting. So there's definitely some space for a lot of these, I think, for recolors and retexturings, maybe even just smoothing out the texture. Now this is a 4:2, so this is from The Sims 4. I don't use it that often, but I did think the rose texture was kind of nice and I wanted to include it for those of you who have a more Maxis Match game. Now this one from Francis at Caravan Shop Sims 2. Oh, amazing. I love this one. I use it all the time. It's got some really nice recolors. I would like more simple recolors of the base, honestly. Like I would love a white, anything a little bit more beige, And here it is actually kind of like in a little wedding setup, and it just like, it's such a lovely pink. I just love this pink, and you'll see that in a lot of my builds as well. Now this one I actually have never used, but I found in my game, and look at the texture, look at the meshing on these roses. These are from VitaSims, which shouldn't surprise you about the intense detail of these textures, but they are just absolutely stunning. Now, this one is also really, really useful, especially in your kind of upper class builds where you really kind of need to add a little bit more like dynamism when it comes to height. So I would put these primarily on the floor. This one as well. This is my favorite. Like, yeah, the rose textures could be better. It's also from VitaSims, but look at the vase. Like, this is my favorite just because of the vase. The vase is so dramatic, so baroque, so beautiful. I just love it. I do wish that we had some more options. These are really the only two coloring options that we have. And I also wanted to throw this one in because I forgot to add this earlier. But look at the texturing on these roses. They're beautiful, they're subtle, but the vase, it all just comes together so, so beautifully. So you guys will have to let me know if you want me to do some more videos like this on custom content. I can kind of round up what I have and give you recommendations and links. Everything is linked down below. Now, what I really want to see more of when it comes to roses, I want an arch. I want a trellis. I want something like these. These are not roses, but I want something like this with roses because these are lush and beautiful, and you can create these kind of like fenced in areas with them. And even like something that's dangly a little bit, like the wisteria, like something kind of based off of the wisteria and these flowers here, I think would be really, really lovely. But I want something like with some drama, some oomph, you know, like something that I can vine 2 stories tall and have a lot of variation in different textures that I can use, that will just add some real texture, some light, some color, because the roses are really such a facet of Victorian culture and Victorian landscaping, and so I just want more of it. They work really well in formal gardens, but they also work well in these more lower class cottage gardens and even on like a church like we see right here. So thank you for watching an entire video about roses. I realize how ridiculous that is, but I had a lot of fun rounding these up. So I'll see you guys next time. Bye!